Today is April 24th, 2023. We're in the lovely Lowe's Sapphire Falls Hotel Resort. We're at the 31st annual FBI-LEEDA conference, and I have the honor of sitting with 5 of our past national presidents of FBI-LEEDA. This is a first that we are doing this, and as a result, this is the first time that I think you all will enjoy learning about the history of FBI-LEEDA. For so many of you who have asked, how does LEEDA become, or how has it become? So with that being said, I'd like to open up the first question to Tom Stone. What was your legacy, sir, when FBI-LEEDA was first created, back in the year of 1988, if I'm not mistaken?
We started with a conception after the LEEDS program in 1988, and it was actually in 1990-91 that we formally formed the association when a group of past graduates from the LEEDS program in Quantico got together and decided to come up with a way to keep in touch with each other and to build on what we had done at the FBI Academy as far as teaching and knowing about leadership around the country. So then we formally formed FBI-LEEDA, and the program at Quantico was called LEEDS, and we changed the seminar to association to keep it within the family, and LEEDA was formally formed in 1991.
All right, sir. And one last question directed specifically for you. Before Malvern's headquartered position, where was the original office first located?
The original office for LEEDA was located in my home, and my wife contacted all 56 field offices, and we tried to get the names of all the graduates of all the programs, and we contacted them to let them know that we were forming an association and to get their interest in an association, and that's how the board actually formally formed the association and came up with the seal, the great seal that we have, and the goals and objectives we have for the association.
Thank you, sir. Now, this is opened up for everyone present. Please add in as you feel that you bring viability to each question from here forth. I would like to find out from each one of you what your thoughts are on how the organization has progressed before you became a president at your time, and then after you've become a president or sitting president. Does that question make sense to you?
Sure.
Any one of you are welcome to start.
I'll kick it off. In my tenure with LEEDA, which starts before my board time, I think LEEDA's grown phenomenally. It's been amazing to sit back and watch, going from such humble beginnings with a few people who had the vision to make it happen, and then what it's turned into today as one of the leading instructional organizations in the United States for leadership. It's just been fantastic.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, I can tell you from my experience, I first went to the command college, and that's where I learned about FBI-LEEDA. And I came on, and the first time I went to a conference, you could feel the camaraderie, the energy inside that room, and I tell you, it wasn't as large as it is now, but I can tell you that I've built relationships with other law enforcement agencies. When I was Travis County Sheriff, I was able to call other individuals and get a response, lickety-split, from different organizations. And what I see now is just phenomenal on how it's grown. And we're getting more and more young folks coming here that are going to be our future leaders. So I've got high hopes for what LEEDA is going to do.
I want to follow up on that statement you just made, but I want to give everyone else on the panel an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, I want to say LEEDA wasn't as widely known in law enforcement circles, and when I came on the board, the classes were in the double digits. There weren't many classes, and when I left the board, the growth of LEEDA was just off the charts.
Okay.
Like phenomenal. Contract classes for states started showing up. we started seeing the demand outpace the abilities of the current instructor cadre that we had, and more instructors were just brought on, and it just kept still growing. It's continuing to grow quicker than I ever thought it would.
Outstanding.
Before coming on the board, probably in around 2012, I was doing an internet search for supervisory schools. Quite honestly, I wanted to find a week away from work, and I was finding an excuse to go to a class. And I stumbled across FBI-LEEDA. I'd never heard of it before. And so I went to a class up in Augusta, Maine. The two instructors were Dean Crisp and Tim Plotz.
Okay.
And by Wednesday, I knew that there was something special there. And I wanted to be part of it. And that's what motivated me to go forward with the trilogy and go on the board. With that said, coming on the board, we were pushing for more classes. We're trying to build, we're trying to build, we're trying to build. Well, by the time I came off the board, what we were trying to do the year that I was president is actually grab the reins a little bit and say, look, we can't outgrow our cadre of instructors. You know, we needed to make sure that the instructors that we hired were the highest caliber, and we weren't just hiring instructors to fill holes. And so we had to start looking at managing growth.
That is outstanding. President Stone or past emeritus director, executive director?
The vision when the classes started was cops talking to cops and to teach leadership. And to teach leadership to the future people who would be taking the reins of agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And we started out slow, and it just, the growth was exponential with demand for the classes. And as John said, in the early years, prior to him, we were having problems getting the right instructors.
Okay.
We had plenty of people who wanted to teach for LEEDA, but I didn't want teachers. We wanted people who could talk and could relate to the people in the classroom, because the one thing LEEDA wanted to do was tell everybody, never forget where you came from, so that that instructor standing in front of that group had been there and done it and could relate to it and relate to the future leaders.
Understood.
You can find a lot of people that can stand up and teach the theory of this and the theory of that, and we wanted nothing to do with that. We wanted to teach leadership, and to teach it, you had to be there and know what you were talking about. And that gained the gravitas of this, the programs, because the words began to spread, and that's when the second program came in, because we knew as an organization that we had to build on what we had started. And when the second program came in, soon there was demand for the third program. And that's how you get the trilogy programs, the three programs ending with the executive leadership. And when we built the core of that, and it's been so improved on in the years, but we did that for the senior executive.
Yes, sir.
And the core of that classroom then in the executive was for the senior executive. And that sprouted into internal affairs and other courses. And then during my tenure, we brought on online training because they knew people could do that, with some legal classes that were taught by a corporate attorney, and the e-learning was becoming a thing, so we knew we had to get into that particular field just to keep up. And very, very carefully, as John and everybody's alluded to, the selection of the instructors was paramount, was absolutely paramount to carry the name of this great organization. You had to have the very best, and we would accept nothing less.
All right. Revisiting what you said, because law enforcement has changed from 1988 to present, could you define the terminology cops teaching cops for us? Help me understand, help the audience understand what today's view of what cops teaching cops is versus then. And
Well-
any one of you also.
I'll start it off. The original theory was that to present any subject or being able to answer any subject matter that the audience would answer, that cop had to have been there and basically have gotten a T-shirt. You know, you could be in a classroom and somebody said, well, how do you deal with the political atmosphere in a community?
Okay.
Well, if you had somebody who was not a police chief or not in that position, they couldn't answer that question.
Understood.
And the one thing you didn't want to have happen in the classroom is for the students to ask a question that the instructor couldn't answer or get right back to them with an answer. So that's why we used the phrase cops teaching cops, because they had been there, they had the experiences and could relate those experiences. Not saying that somebody maybe from the federal field who became an instructor is not a great instructor in a certain area, but dealing with police problems and law enforcement problems, you have to have been there.
Right, and I think that
President Shastany.
students,
Yes, sir.
thank you. I think that students, police officers, are more than likely willing to listen to a police officer who went through it than an academic, somebody that has a CJ degree or some public administration degree, but no experience. Because as a police officer goes, we are looking for trainers that connect with us, that understand and can pull out some of our concerns. So the police officer with the story to back up the lesson is more of an advantage. And it also provides, there's a funny little part that occurs. There's a mentorship process that's occurring at the same time.
Yes, sir.
And many of the students will talk about their instructors as mentors. It's a common phrase that we hear all the time.
Okay. I'd like to revisit President Hamilton's statement when he referenced young officers looking at LEEDA as a potential growth expectum. Could you help me in understanding, if I'm a young officer or I'm an officer in my department and I'm looking for better leadership development, why choose LEEDA?
Well, I can tell you, first of all, is that ever since I've been part of LEEDA, I am mentoring individuals call me from all over the country and talk to me about whether they should move up as far as the chief deputies or a sergeant. How do you progress up? And I just tell them, you know, I talk with them and find out what they want to do and in what time frame. And I have an opportunity to speak with these individuals and give them examples of other folks that worked within my department on how I work with them to get to where they want to get. I think that we have a lot of leaders here at LEEDA, and we have a lot of leaders without titles also that are mentoring a lot of individuals. So one of the things I try to do is stay in touch with these individuals and help them. But first, I think that it's very important that whoever's at the top of the chain in whatever department, they have to believe in training. And if you if you're like the state of Texas, oftentimes when individuals agencies are short on funds, the first thing they cut is the training. So as I go around the country speaking to different organizations, that's one thing that I talk about, because that is going to cost you more in the long run if you do not send them to training.
Thank you for that. This is a direct question for President Boggs, because I believe he's the only sitting president who's currently in our instructional cadre as of now. Any one of you are welcome to join in, but how can we better, President Boggs, invest in our instructors to help them in the classroom for future policing?
Good question.
In your point.
I think one of the most important things that I see in my fellow instructors is their passion around law enforcement leadership.
Yes, sir.
They live it, they eat it, they breathe it, they're on it with social media, and they're doing everything necessary to keep themselves current in the profession. Even those men and women who are retired, because leadership never stops if you do it correctly. It's not about just leadership at work, it's about leading at home, in your church and civic groups. And so our instructor corps understands that that thread runs through your entire life. And I think our audience in the classroom actually really resonates with that. Leadership is not just about your position in an organization, it's about how you choose to live your life. And so LEEDA affects people not just at work, but it affects them everywhere they go.
That's incredible. I open up the floor now for the rest of you to add any comments you might have to that question if you so choose. President Horsman?
Thank you. I was impressed this year to see the number of instructors that were here. And whatever that took to get those instructors here, I think we need to build on that and repeat it. The folks that come here to these conferences, they don't come to see the executive board. They may come for the dinners, which are excellent, but the fact of the matter is they really are coming to see their instructors who they see as mentors.
Yes,
And I think it's important that we have the instructors here. And what I saw this year with the number of instructors is something that we're doing right. And we need to build on that, I believe.
Yes, sir. Since you closed out that last question, let me begin with you with the next question. In your opinion, how has the organization progressed since its inception under President Stone?
Well, we've gone from being the Wright brothers to the USS Enterprise.
Interesting.
First
Yes.
generation. We still have several more generations to go, but we really have taken off, and we've seemed to be heading in the right direction in all those areas as far as what we talked about, managed growth, et cetera.
Yes, sir.
You know, we have swaths of this country that we are missing getting LEEDA into. And you see it when you look at the pen map where we're going, and you see where we really might need to go there. And they're very rural areas.
Yes, sir.
They may not be able to support 22, 25 minimum students. And it very well may be something that we can look at where maybe that's where we need to be looking to doing 10 students. And we can get the instructors to some of these rural areas that are probably more in need of leadership than some of the heavily populated areas.
Yes, sir.
We did that in the beginning. If people that financially couldn't afford to send their people and have their people travel, we would go to them. And most of the time, we barely made expenses, much less even paying an instructor, but the instructors were so passionate about it. I've been to places in this country that I didn't even know were on the map. And exactly to what you say, you've got to realize that there are other folks out there and come up with a way to meet the needs of everybody. I think LEEDA's made great strides in that, but there's still some work to do in that, and that's a very good point you brought up.
Yeah, but one of the things I'd like to say is that there's always going to be the next level.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you a good example is today, where we actually had e-voting or whatever people can vote. That has been talked about for a period of time. But I will tell you that from the time that I came on LEEDA, on the board or even attended a conference, each year there's something new that's coming on. So I will say that I think that's part of evolution, that we're going to continue to see where there's gaps. And I can tell you that the leadership has focused on those gaps, and there's always going to be those gaps. And LEEDA needs to continue to address those particular issues, which they're doing right now.
I think especially with the challenges today, because you're finding a lot of people in police and law enforcement agencies that don't want to go to that next step due to the political climate, the liability factors, and so forth. So LEEDA has to be the one to give them and instill that confidence in them, because the turmoil that's going on in cities and counties and so forth is extremely hard, and that's why when the instructors are there talking to them cop to cop to motivate them to take that next step up, because in the time I've been associated with it since birth, the evolution in police chiefs and so forth is a fast turnover, and there's not that stability,
Yes, sir.
and leadership is lacking
Yes, sir.
in a lot of agencies due to the political nature and political beast of the way the country's going.
Yes, sir.
And I think that what we're doing is we're stirring up passion. Our instructors are stirring passion, igniting an interest. I've sent patrol officers to get the trilogy, police officers that in conversation were not interested in ascension. They didn't want to go up.
Yes, sir.
That are now, some of them are chiefs, others are ranking officers. And I think that's very unique to us because of having cops teaching cops. I feel that that is, in the mentorship that we talked about, it's
Yes.
very refreshing for people.
Yes, sir.
There's positivity and there's hope. And
Yes, sir.
looking at the growth, one of the thoughts that entered my mind is that we'll never hit a saturation point with the type of training. It's impossible. Department turnover, rank turnover, even just the thought of sending someone back for a trilogy again, if they got a trilogy 10 years ago, is something that I support because we're keeping pace. We're outstripping the competition as far as what we're delivering. So
Yes, sir.
we got a lot to do. The world is at our fingertips.
Okay.
I think, yeah, there has to be something after trilogy. There has to be,
Yes.
A
in
next
my
level,
humble
a next
opinion,
tier.
there has to be something. When we came up with the trilogy program several years ago, and the different names were kicked around, what to call it, and so forth. Trilogy hit and so forth, but as I see it, and my contact still around the country is, what's next? Where do we go next? I think what the board did and the membership did today was a giant leap by passing in the bylaws that to be a officer in this association, you had to participate in this association. You had to reach. You can't be elected to an office and not know what you're elected to.
Yes, sir.
And so I think that's a giant step, and I applaud the executive board and so forth for bringing that to the forefront today. I think that's a giant step. But with the wonderful people I just had the opportunity to interact with, the instructors, I guess there were 30 of them in the room.
Sir.
There's a lot of brain power and knowledge and ideas, and you get those people together and you just start thinking and what's next, and you're going to find the leaders in that group who are going to come up, and then you're going to get another finished product, and you're going to do like you guys said, take it to the next level, because if you don't take it to the next level, somebody else is going to try to take it to the next level.
Yes, sir.
But nobody that I'm aware of in all the years I've been associated with LEEDA has ever come up with a product that has stayed and been so impactful to law enforcement as the programs that LEEDA offers around the country. Nobody, but you got to keep up with the pace.
But
President
But,
Horsman.
but to your point, recently I've noticed that a number of other police organizations seem to be copying our model in one way or another. And I don't want to call it competition because that's not what it is. But I see this model being copied that we are very successful at. And if we do not stay at the point of the spear, someone's going to go somewhere else for their instruction, and I don't think we want to see that, and I don't think we want to see our people going to different places for instruction. I found it was very, very beneficial that I spoke the same language as my major spoke, as my lieutenant spoke, by sending them all to the same school. But they are out there, and they are looking to see how successful we are being and I believe that we're going to continue to see, for the lack of better terms, some copycat training going on, and we need to be continual in our improvements.
I think we're already seeing it.
Oh,
Yeah, we're seeing it, and that distresses me a lot, because what we're seeing is some of the product or people who used to be associated with us who are trying to come up, and that really disheartens me. You know, I was always taught loyalty, loyalty to the organization,
To the brand.
and so forth, but you're absolutely right. You know, imitation, they say, is the highest form of flattery, but they're really trying to imitate us.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I think differently. I think that competition is healthy.
it is.
And I don't know if that's the right word as far as competition. I think that keeps us on our A game.
That's what I'm trying
That
to
that
say.
pushes us to take it to the next level. I love competition.
And everyone up here on this board has attended academies, SMIP, National Academy, Southern Police Institute, you name it, a smattering of everything. Ours is different. LEEDA is different. That's why I got on the board, because having gone to everything I could find, taking a sample of all of the classes, I felt there was nothing that was even close to what LEEDA did for our people. What we're looking for, obviously, is to keep as much people from straying from our product. But I think that's all right, like Greg said. They'll come back. I think the other part is making sure we have an offering post trilogy. We've talked about classes like a chiefs or a command class, the unique problems facing chiefs with the politicians, the political climate, personnel issues,
Yes.
you name it, are problems that are limiting the duration of chiefs. Like 2 or 3 years is like a lifespan for a chief now. And we need to make sure that they can see the roadmap from others, from us. So exploring other classes and building on it is a nice way to do this.
Plus, you have something that they might not offer, which I don't think they do, is you've got a staff at your headquarters that's responsive, and that means an awful lot when students can call with questions. How do I get a hold of this person or that person, or a particular question? You've got a trained staff that knows what the mission of the organization is and can help them, and that's terrific customer service.
Thank you, sir. And it's ironic that President Shastany and President Horsman gave comments that led up to your next question. And without fear of being redundant, let me open this question up to the group. Basically, how can LEEDA maintain being competitive in the training world, as new organizations and programs try to match or emerge with what we're doing? It's for anyone on the board.
I'll start. I think we do that week over week in the classroom.
Yeah.
LEEDA's brand is the instructor delivering, and the fact that our classes explode due to word of mouth. The student likes what we teach, they understand the instructor, they take it back, they get good results.
Right.
And so our success is really based on the fact that we grow in the absence of a lot of advertising. Our advertising is the student that goes through the class.
That's exactly right.
And
Right.
that's the best compliment that an organization can have, is the product itself is actually the student doing the advertising for us.
And the consumer, the student, is addressing all of the gaps in what we're delivering. We're constantly hearing, you are constantly hearing what they feel is a new problem or a new emerging trend for them. I don't know if other places receive that feedback like we do.
Very good.
Very good.
Let me go ahead and segue into our next question. President Hamilton, how can the organization improve on what we're already doing, in your opinion?
Well, I think that the organization, from my vantage point, is excelling in all aspects right now. But as far as improving, I think that I think it's incumbent and I think Paul just spoke about it, is one of the things that we need to do is continue to get input from the individuals that are attending our classes or who have attended our classes to find out what as far as globally is affecting law enforcement, and to try to put together those type of training. I remember at one point in time, we had talked, and I used the term just a minute ago, leaders without titles. There are individuals out there that are leading their agency, but they don't have any title there. And I brought that up. I think you were there, or it was Skip. And I brought that up, and now I don't know if the class is still going, but they started. A matter of fact, a guy wrote a book about leaders without titles. And we talked about individuals that do not look like me and you, that whether it's LGBTQ plus and all of those organizations, those individuals have issues also, certain issues that I don't have as an African American male. So we're trying to address all of those particular issues, and it goes back to trying to stay at the storefront, I mean at the highlight on all of these particular issues to try to put some courses together. Maybe LEEDA is unable to do some of them, but they need to look at it and see how we can be more inclusive with everybody, whatever their issues are.
There could be classes to piggyback on that. I know they've been talked about, classes for women in policing, or to cover the whole spectrum, diversity.
Yes, sir.
But you've got to have, the way the world is changing, you've got to have that. Organizations are dealing with it, and there are a couple of people trying to address it, but they're doing a poor job at it, where LEEDA can do a superb job to bring forth a diversity class. Leaders from different sectors could, you know, I speak of the women in policing because I know we were trying to develop a class like that, but people who face different challenges, let's meet that need, because that need is ever growing out there, and we've got to address it.
But I would also add that we need to be ahead of that and start putting together classes and put it on the shelf.
Yes, sir.
And then throw it out there when at time of needed. You need to think of all aspects on how to address the issue and be on the front end of that.
What is the group's thoughts on implicit bias and de-escalation, not just for law enforcement, but possibly educating the community as well on those same topics? That could be something, in your opinion, what do you think?
Where we go out and
Teach the public.
educate the public.
Possibly. I mean, it's all exploratory.
Right.
We have to look for new remedies.
Right. Well, we've got to start. I mean, start. That's probably the wrong word. We have to keep building these bridges
Yes, sir.
between the communities and law enforcement. If we can be part of that bridge, that would be wonderful. We've got to be more inclusive as a profession. We've got to be more open to the differences that we all are. That's what makes us stronger. But we've got to be open to those things.
Yes, sir.
And in order to do that, you know, this organization could take a big part in that and be able to build that bridge. How you get to the public, I'm not sure how we do. I'm not sure how you.
Well,
get there.
I've got it. Well, you go ahead. You were about to say something.
I was just going to mention, I think one of our opportunities may be we can put together a condensed course for teaching organizations how to reach their citizenry, best practices from all over the nation, because we do have the strategic advantage of being in different communities multiple times every week, pull all that together and aggregate it, and then run potentially a class for organizations on how to better reach your community. Here's all the best practices we're seeing around the nation. We try to weave that into our current course curriculum already, but there could be an opportunity to build something specific for that.
I think that's what I was about to say. That is the way to do it. And you're not just reaching law enforcement. you're out there, and I would suggest that this course is built, and then and it doesn't have to be a LEEDA conference that you go to. You have all these schools, you have different entities out there. You could send as goodwill, send a instructor, instructor to put on that course at a conference, teaching teachers, teaching different professions out there. I think you're right on.
I think
I think
President Shastany.
DOJ years ago had a community relations unit,
Yes, they did.
and I worked with them. And you could build a class around that for departments that are experiencing crisis or trying to prevent a crisis with a various whatever problems they may have in their community.
Okay.
I think that that would be a great idea. I think so many police chiefs and departments are unaware of a growing problem, a manifesting problem.
Yes, sir.
And all it's going to take is one wrong police action to trigger another Ferguson or something.
Cataclysmic fallout.
So the investment ahead of time, if we put some of this training to work on how to maintain your relationships, that's what we talk about, relationships, and building an action plan. Should something happen in our community, we share this community, the public and the police. This is what we want to do. That is important. I don't know if there is any training available now where a police officer or chief goes through a training and this says to his affected groups, this is what we're going to do. Here's our drill. This is our break glass and sound the alarm moment. I think that's critical. Having experienced it in many communities, it's a fragile line that causes us to lose trust of the community. And we never rebuild them effectively.
Okay.
and I truly believe that is something that you can develop and send that out to school districts and different entities and let them
Yes, sir.
do the training.
Yes, sir. President Horsman, I think you had a comment.
Well, I think Paul was exactly right. Reaching out to the communities with police is excellent, but there's a third part to that, and that's our elected officials.
Yes, sir.
We have elected officials
Excellent
that come on councils,
Excellent.
mayors and council
Right.
that come on board with the best of intention and without any clue about how law enforcement really does work. Imagine a 1 or 2 day summer. In Delaware, we're a small state. We could put every mayor in the state of Delaware in one room and have a class. We could do every mayor. And I realize most other states couldn't do that. But can you imagine 1 or 2 days where we explain what law enforcement does, what the chief does, what the requirements of that chief is, and what some of the things that he's doing maybe to protect the mayor and council as he does his job. Because there's certain things the police chief can share with his mayor, and there's some things that he cannot. But he or she who's the chief of police,
Yes, sir.
it might give them that edge up when the bomb drops and you have that mayor and the mayor goes, oh yeah, I remember them telling me about this.
Yes, sir.
Let's, and now we have that little bit of support. We're not having to, during crisis, train our elected officials to at the same time, which what we generally end up doing.
A good way to bring that to the forefront is your organizations like ICMA, state associations of
Right.
city, counties, and towns, and the county associations and things like that. When they have their meetings, they're always looking for speakers. They're always looking for speakers. So LEEDA contacts these organizations and says, we can present this an hour block. You start out with whatever you can get and send someone to start telling them about this to pique their interest so they understand what's going on. I can remember when we've had classes in communities where the elected officials wanted to come and sit in on the classes. Well, that's good, except when they did, the police, you know,
Yeah.
Lockdown.
Climb up.
yeah,
Clamped up.
because they were afraid to give the open exchange.
Yes, sir.
But if we could get before them, and you know, you just send somebody and absorb what it takes to start getting your brand out there and letting them know, then they will take that back and say, let's get a group of people in that community or the Delaware Association of Mayors together and have a 1 day or 2 day seminar, because usually with elected officials, you can't get them more than a day, but you can make it a dynamic day.
Yeah, but I think day or two is a little bit long. I think that you're
Their
you're
attention
thinking
span
about
is short.
2 or 3 hours
Right.
at the most. I think that's
Yeah,
a
Good point.
long time.
Good point.
yeah.
Anyone else? Because final thought that I need to have all of you buy into as far as giving your explanations. What would you like to see as far as FBI-LEEDA is concerned in the next 5 years? As far as improvement, growth, whatever. This is an open question for you to add for the next 5 years.
I'll go first.
President Shastany.
I think I would like to see a command college type of a course, similar to what our other organizations like PERF puts on,
Yes, sir.
where it would be a requirement to attend all of the courses, the trilogy, and then go into this course where the class would immerse themselves in some of these issues that we're talking about, facilitated by some of our top tier instructors, and bring in others. I think to look beyond what we offer now to something that is now, we'll just say it's a graduate level type of a course would be something I would like. Can be 2 weeks or 3 weeks, no more.
Yes, sir.
And identify, let these officers from the different places identify issues for the course for consumption.
Yes, sir.
The other part is our communication style. We can learn the best theory and learn how to be great leaders, but somehow our words are clumsy under some of our subordinates. We don't exactly say the right thing. And in the business of policing, frequently, what you say isn't as important as how you say it. It's the tone, it's the feelings attached to it, whether you're going to get the voluntary compliance, people following your vision, developing other leaders, or just sitting out your time, sitting out there while you're there and not participating.
Yes, sir.
Having worked in departments that there are a lot of great talented people who maybe want to just take a pass under this administrator or this chief. That's a real issue. So training around that,
Okay.
recognizing it, would be beneficial to me.
Very
I think an important thing for LEEDA as an association is a continuity of leadership in LEEDA, so that we're not always changing course. You've got a great board, you've got great leadership, and if you got that continuity where you can stay on that course, so you're not always, well, I want to change this, and somebody new's coming in, and the mission of the organization knows where it's going, and I think that I'm really encouraged for the future of the organization under your leadership. I know we're getting ready, I think, to get a COO.
Yes, sir.
To have people that are going to be there, and the continuity, because when you break that continuity, there's always, well, what's going to happen? What's this guy going to want to do? The same as a new chief coming in,
Yes, sir.
And when you got continuity, then we can really concentrate and turn these instructors loose to come up with some great ideas. And I'm really encouraged about the next 5 years with that. I really am.
Okay. Closing thoughts.
I mentioned earlier about I guess we could call them underserved communities, underserved areas. It would be great if within the next 5 years we could reach out and be able to put some pins on those areas and start representing there. But I had never thought of what Paul said until he's sitting here talking about a command class. And I just use Delaware as an example. Delaware for FBI NA gets 4 slots a year. So 4 people a year from the state of Delaware get to go to the NA. 4. If we had a command class and build upon that, whether it's 2 or 3 weeks, or you break it into, it doesn't matter, 2-week periods over a period of time, whatever, however that it works out. Then you're talking about, in our little state, possibly 30 or 40 people taking a command class instead of 4. And that's growth.
That was actually developed, and it was going to be called the FBI-LEEDA Command College. It was actually developed, and it got sidetracked. But I thought it was a great idea, and you would get buy-in. I know that when I went to the Leeds in 1988, there was a 3-year waiting period.
Yes, sir.
Because the academy could only take so many people at
Yes, sir.
Quantico.
Yes, sir.
And to do it with a command college, that, boy, you got the trilogy, then you go to the command college, and you could make, do you have to be a trilogy person to go to the command college? That could be your next level.
It's a problem solver.
And you've got the name behind you. You've got a good vision for that. I think.
And it has to be marketed correctly.
We're a traveling roadshow. We really are. We're
Yes.
not asking people to come to us except for the conference.
Right.
We go to them. And when you think that you can take something like Paul suggests as a command college and push that out, and we can go to them, that's huge.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead, President Boggs. For you.
Oh, no. I'm more of a process person. I really look at processes, and you asked the question, I think it's a great one, about the next 5 years. I think LEEDA is going to have to pay very close attention to being prepared for the sustainable growth.
Yeah.
And we've experienced that as board members across
we
each
did.
of our tenures, but even internal processes, as we add instructors, as we add coursework, keeping that consolidated, keeping everybody kind of dialed into the same message,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
that's going to become a larger and larger office level issue for management, because you're wrangling so many more people. As organizations grow, you add policies, you add processes,
Right.
you add inspections.
Yes, sir.
And I think LEEDA will endure the exact same growth challenges. They're good, but we're going to have to put the mechanisms in place to manage that growth. And I know we got the right person to work on that. So.
Spot on. I agree. I thank you for that compliment. Final opportunity here. We close out with comments. What would you each individually want to give as a final comment to that person who is going to tune in and see this webcast to understand about LEEDA? Final comments. President Boggs.
You know, it's a tremendous organization. There are a lot of good organizations across America that serve law enforcement, but it's been an honor to be a part of several of them. But LEEDA has always been close to my heart. I've been part of this organization for a long time, and I think every member of this organization, from office staff to participant in our conferences, has the best interest of the law enforcement officer at heart, and that's what makes this so special.
Thank you, sir. President Hamilton.
Well, I can tell you that LEEDA, I'll never forget after I went through the command college and I heard about LEEDA, and when my first time at LEEDA, and unfortunately I hadn't gotten the trilogy. Matter of fact, I hadn't gotten any class, and I was able to come on board, and just the brotherhood, the camaraderie that I have seen since I've been been with LEEDA is just amazing. And as I said earlier, I have the opportunity, the pleasure, and the privilege to still mentor people from all over the country that calls me to ask for a connection here or what would you do. That keeps me, I guess you can say, feeling young,
Yes.
talking with these individuals and knowing what's going on. I think, and I'm biased, I think LEEDA is the best training out there. And I've been to a lot of training, and I think LEEDA is the best thing out there. And then on top of that, we have still have the Godfather around that helps us out when we need some counseling or some mentoring.
Sir.
So I thank you, Tom.
President Horsman.
I was sitting here thinking, I mean, each and every one of you talked about a certain part of it, and I kept clicking it off. I'm like, okay, they've talked about that, they've talked about that. This organization, what it means to me, I guess, is that it is so much more than any one of us. You know, it is the combination of all of us and more. And whether you're on the board, or whether you're a member of staff, or whether you're a member of the organization, I think that all of us together make a very strong organization that literally whatever we can think of that we can do, I think we can do it. I think we can get there.
Very good. President Shastany.
Without repeating everyone's sentiments, and I feel exactly the same way. Like Greg, I've been to as much as you can get for training or for leadership training. This, to me, is the most satisfying because you're participating in something that's making a difference. It has meaning. Being on the board, being around these instructors, and just interacting with folks here, you feel like you are tapped into the pulse of what is going on in this country. There is no other feeling of satisfaction in any trainings than working with LEEDA. It's the most important organization for police leadership in the world. And I see it, I communicate it every day. Retired now, still think about it.
And we close out with, as President Hamilton affectionately referred to him, President Stone, the Godfather.
Oh. Well, I agree with everything my colleagues have said, and I think we have another great opportunity. You're talking about 5 years. I was again amazed today when you reported on how many trilogy recipients we had done in a year. And if LEEDA could break out the trilogy people so that there's a separate list so that if I need something in Broken Arrow, I can look and say, well, there's a trilogy person there. We have an instant connection. You have an instant connection. It's like some of the associations, they know that if you've been to the NA, you got that instant connection. Okay, now we're a trilogy person, and LEEDA's provided us a contact somewhere in the United States where you can go when you need help or questions or so forth. And I think that would certainly help us. But I just am just thrilled with the way the organization is going, the leadership, and what it's accomplished. And I'm so encouraged about the future. I just think the future, there's nobody, and I'm biased, there's no question about that, that provides any better service to the leadership of law enforcement than FBI-LEEDA as far as this training. And we're second to none, and just remain that way.
Yes, sir. As we close out, I am remiss for the audience that may watch this or tune in because I failed to do proper introductions. To my immediate right is past President David Boggs. To his immediate right is past President Greg Hamilton. To his immediate right is past President Tom Stone. To his immediate right is past President Paul Shastany. And lastly, to his right is President John Horsman. I'm Jacques Battiste, the new Executive Director for FBI-LEEDA, and I take a moment of personal privilege to let you know how honored I am to be on a stage with 5 of the greatest minds that FBI-LEEDA has put forth in this law enforcement community. And with that, we're right at 1 hour, and I'd like to go ahead and close out. Look for more of these series coming. This is our pilot for doing this. Look for one to come out annually where we continue to capture the history of FBI-LEEDA through our past presidents. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.